Hello and welcome back to the American Fan Football Channel, where I am the aforementioned American and we talk about the sport of football. We are going to be talking about Manchester City today. We're going to be talking about how they've been performing this season, how Eerling Haaland has been fitting into their team, as well as their aspirations to finally take home their first Champions League trophy. So let's just jump straight into it. I kind of wanted to start with their first major signing of the summer. That has to be the Norwegian Erling Haaland. He came into this league with really, really high hopes and really high expectations, and everyone thought he was going to bang the goals right off the start. And he disappointed all of the people who wanted him to fail, because that's kind of exactly what he did. He once again provided the winning goal yesterday in their Champions League group stage game against Borussia Dortmund, his old team. Isn't that a nice little present for his old fans? But yeah, he's kind of really been amazing right off the block. And I don't want to put any hate to Erling Haaland. He's an incredible player. He has one of the biggest egos in the game, but he also has the ability to kind of back up that ego. So I guess kind of like maybe like a Zlatan type. You can't really be mad at how much of an ego he has, because it's kind of funny. And you know, he's a really great player. But with all of that said, does Erling Haaland improve Manchester City? And that's a little more difficult of a question, because Erling Haaland has been scoring tons of goals this season, but City's problem has never been scoring goals. City have not played with a striker for the past 2 seasons, and some people might say that was a choice by Pep, and I think it also just could have been from the lack of available options. I know they tried to sign Harry Kane, but that was unsuccessful. So yeah, does Erling Haaland make Manchester City better? And I think the answer has to kind of be no. I'm not going to say he makes them worse. But City are currently destroying teams, scoring tons of goals, and playing amazing, amazing football. But City have also done that the past 2 seasons without a striker. So if they could score goals and destroy teams in the previous seasons without Erling Haaland, and they're still doing that this season, can you really say that he made them better? And I don't think so. I think what we're kind of seeing is going to see a redistribution of the goals that City scored this season. I think the goals were so spread out over this past 2 seasons. You had Sterling chipping in 10, Foden chipping in like 7 to 12 goals a season, and Mara's about the same, 7 to 12. Gundogan scoring like an impressive 18 goals one season. Kevin De Bruyne popping up with a few goals along with his 15 plus assists a season. But yeah, I think we'll kind of start to see more reliance on Erling Haaland. I think we'll see players like Foden, Mahrez, Grealish getting less goal-scoring opportunities, and maybe getting more opportunities to provide goals for Erling Haaland. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You're still scoring goals no matter which way you're doing it. But my wonder is if that could maybe make Manchester City a little more one-dimensional than they were in previous seasons. Now, without that saying, I think they will score more than enough goals to win the league, and I think, honestly, the Premier League is probably the title race is probably over, even though I think Arsenal are still ahead of City technically in the table. But what if we take a one-off game instead of 38 games across an entire Premier League season? City could still be vulnerable. We've seen this season a couple times where Manchester City have conceded a fair amount of goals in a game. Against Newcastle, they conceded 3. Against Crystal Palace, they conceded 2. And both of those games, they dropped points. So if a team like Newcastle, with players that are good, but definitely nowhere near a top 4 Champions League team, not yet, not until there's a little more Saudi money pumped into their veins, we can see that Manchester City have flaws. So will they win the Champions League? And I just really can't say that I think this is the year. I think Erling Haaland will score goals in the Champions League, but in one game, maybe they'll be in the quarterfinals, semifinals, maybe even the final. They'll probably get through the last 16 because they always get a favorable draw. They probably bribe off UEFA, but that's for another story. In that one game where their backs against the wall and a team, let's say Real Madrid again, because that's who they knocked them out last year. Let's say they mark Erling Haaland out of the game entirely, and they defend him perfectly throughout the entire game. Antonio Rudiger, ex-Chelsea boy, kind of gives him a little elbow for not coming to Chelsea two summers ago. Let's say that happens. Then you have a team that has been relying on a single person to score the majority of their goals, but he was just marshaled out of the game and was fairly ineffective, and that happens to the best of strikers. It certainly happens to Ronaldo. It happens to Lewandowski. Maybe even yesterday against or 2 days ago against Bayern Munich. What if that happens? And then what if City can't score because the person that they've been relying on for the majority of their goals is being so well defended? And I think that's when we will see that Erling Haaland could, as much of a benefit as he is over an entire 38-game season, in a one-off game in the Champions League semifinal, final, quarterfinal, wherever City get to this year, if he gets taken out of the game, it could really hurt City, because I don't see them as having as much of a plan B as they did in previous seasons. When you're not playing with a striker, you can always throw on Gabriel Jesus, who had a great vein of form towards the end of last season. And you have just all these interchanging attacking players that can interchange and try attack the team at different angles, but you wouldn't have that if you have that focal point of Erling Haaland up front, who you need to feed the ball into, otherwise he could be ineffective. So overall, that's kind of why I think Erling Haaland basically guarantees them the league, which by that, it's an amazing signing, because any singular player that I think can guarantee you to retain a Premier League title is one of the best signings of the summer, and I think Erling Haaland was one of the best signings of the summer. But that doesn't mean that it necessarily solves some of the other problems that Pep has faced in the Champions League, and I don't think it guarantees that Erling Haaland will bring home the Champions League trophy to Manchester. And for that reason, I think Pep will bottle it again. And that's how we're going to end this video. Pep Guardiola, serial Champions League bottler for Manchester City. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will probably be more, at least one more video coming out today. And I'm going to try to keep uploading fairly decently. Check out my video yesterday that I recorded about Chelsea's first game under Graham Potter, if you're interested in that. But yeah, please like and subscribe to the video. I would really appreciate it, as we are just starting out this channel. But yeah, that's all I have for you right now. So maybe check back in later for another video. But until then, have a good day.